You know, in recent years, it's never been better to be from a Spanish-speaking background. Guillermo del Toro is one of the most respected fantasy creators out there. Juan Antonio Bayona scored a major double whammy with The Orphanage and then The Impossible, and even lesser names like Fede Alvarez or the Muschettis have found their way to big success in the fields of horror. So now Mexico tries its hand at the war epic, a genre with a lot of prestige but also a lot of pitfalls. But hey, they got an ex-member of the Lord of the Rings team to help it come to life on the big screen. That sounds like a great recipe, right? Right? That movie nut here with a review for Greater Glory, the 2012 war epic starring Andy Garcia, Eva Longoria, Mauricio Curry, Peter O'Toole, Oscar Isaac, and Santiago Cabrera. Set during Mexico of the 1920s, the government, under President Calles, launches a purge against the Catholic Church, killing many priests and Christians. Incensed, a number of them band together to form the Cristeros, a religious rebellion that fights to force the government to repeal the decision, hoping to attract the attentions of foreign powers like Rome and the United States. The film primarily focuses on a handful of the main figures, such as the atheist General Enrique Gorriosieta, who fights more on principle than any sort of belief, José Sánchez del Río, a young boy who would later be canonized as a martyr, the freedom fighter Victoriano El Catorce Ramirez, and the soldier priest Father Vega, as they each struggle for their cause and, in fact, for their own lives. The performances here are pretty decent, but there's not much in the way of exceptions, save for Garcia as the general, who really gets across the rugged world-weariness of this old warrior, a man who may not believe in the religious side of this event, but rather the principle of the cause, which is freedom of worship, and Garcia gives the part the stature and authority needed to buy him as a leader. The remainder of the cast, as the various Cristeros and their relatives who all contributed in some way to smuggling supplies and weapons, all do perfectly fine, though some admittedly struggle with accents more than others, with really the only other notable mentions being Muri as the martyr Jose, who is actually a pretty good child actor, and he definitely gives what could be a very stagey, flat role some real life and pep, as befitting someone of that age. But Peter O'Toole as the elderly priest who in part inspires him is really just there, pulling what I term a Marlon Brando, where an older respected actor is more there for the sake of name value than really turning in a solid performance. Half the time, O'Toole seems more dozy and dreary than a man whose life is in mortal danger. On a technical level, the film is a mixed bag. For Greater Glory certainly boasts some of the best production values for a foreign film in recent memory, with vast vistas of the Mexican countryside and mountains, as well as the old cities and towns, and even being able to stretch its dollars to show us the railway and even have an action sequence on it. However, the action itself can be best described as really clumsy, with the all too familiar modern curse of shaky cam rearing its ugly head yet again, with major battle scenes being pretty small and confined and almost alarmingly cheap in contrast to their big surroundings, and the film's slow pacing only serves to suck out more of the excitement, tension and adrenaline from these set pieces. And considering these are where most of our characters meet their respective ends, that's not a good thing at all. However, musically, the film does score some points, as veteran James Horner provides a predictable but quality score that is both epic, with a large orchestra heavy on strings and brass, but also quite moving, with the use of a female choral reinforcing the film's religious connections, with the opening song in particular about light and darkness being especially haunting and touching. But when all is said and done, we now come to the script, written by Michael Love, who primarily makes short films, and well, inexperience is the key word when it comes to describing For Greater Glory as a whole. The film's ambitions to capture this relatively unknown chapter in Mexican history and bring it to a broader audience is certainly very admirable, and in this day and age of religious tensions and extremism, the story of the Cristeros has a surprising amount of relevance to it. But like many other wannabe epics like Wyatt Earp or Gods and Generals, the film tries to do too much with too little, confusing history textbook speeches with moving dialogue, and overly simple characters and obvious themes for great depth and emotion. War, especially religious war, is nor ever was created to be simple, and the film really misses this by having every Christian portrayed as some kind of brave, good martyr, while every atheist and member of the government, especially President Calles, is portrayed like some kind of cartoon monster, almost out of one of those cheap 80s Saturday morning shows. And this isn't helped by the film's poor ability of establishing historical context, with Calles' motivation never really being clear unless you know what the Cristeros were about in advance, which frankly completely defeats the point of the film, since it was made to teach about this event, and yet you need to know about the event to understand half of what is going on. For all the speeches that the film's characters make about the importance of faith in God, it makes very little effort in really exploring the state of Mexican society at the time and where exactly this anti-Catholic sentiment came from. Did the church have some role in past corruption and cruel regimes? Had the Mexican Revolution birthed an anti-religious sentiment? Had all the bloodshed from past decades perhaps caused the Mexican people to lose faith in God and the church? Well, you'll get answers to absolutely none of those questions, and as a byproduct be left wondering, why should I care? The film really doesn't give you a sense of what the Mexican people think or felt as a whole about these events, and because all of the cast are locked in these black and white stereotypes, you don't get much of a sense of how big or significant the movement is, or what this really means to people in everyday life who aren't necessarily fighting for this. Already, great possibilities for drama and social commentary arise by this event's very nature, but Love and director Dean Wright, who previously worked as a special effects man on the Lord of the Rings films, prefer giving us overplayed scenes of priests being hanged and children being killed by filthy, slimy, buck-teeth government soldiers than going where the real dramatic money is, and thus giving us a reason to really be invested. Frankly, the film's biggest flaw is the fact that it wants to tell the entire story of the war, but at the same time it also wants to tell these smaller stories of the real people involved, a number of whom later became saints, and this should be pretty clear why this doesn't work. A lot of other war films often look at one battle or one chunk of a conflict, not only to keep runtime down, but also to focus the story and really let us get to know the characters and their situation. Films like Gettysburg, Apocalypse Now, Platoon, and even the much-maligned Revolution from 1985 did this and were able to talk about the complex nature of warfare and what it does to people, without dragging their feet or becoming super preachy. Plus, because most of these characters are saints, especially Jose, there is very little everyday humanity in them, being more a vessel for the film's already overstated themes than actual people you believe and buy into. They were good people, I don't deny that, but people nonetheless. Again, go back to Gettysburg. They took these almost mythical figures and made them ordinary people caught in a very bad situation. But apart from the expected drivel about is it right to kill, there isn't that relatability, which is another missed opportunity for humanizing and opening up the story of the conflict. And in the end, that really sums the whole thing up. A great film can be made from these ingredients, and we have seen it done before in other stories. But in the end, these people had too big an idea and too little experience to pull it off correctly, and that is a true and honest-to-God shame. And thus I must give For Greater Glory a low bronze star. It never had me angry enough or bored enough to give it a full-blown plastic, but that's not much of a saving grace. There is potential locked within this film, and in the hands of more experienced people we could have gotten a legitimately great historical epic out of this, and one with a lot of relevance, but in the end, it aims too high and it does too little.